This is our agenda for tonight's session for people who are considering running for office. I'm going to share some general information. Then I'm going to talk about questions you can ask yourself if you're thinking about running, and then resources for if and when you're ready to take the next step. This is probably the last time I'm going to deliver this training this year, and we are in the municipal filing period right now, so I'm going to share more information on that. The goal for this session is for Democrats who are considering running for office to learn about what it takes, and so that the North Carolina Democratic Party can share information with you to help you make a decision about your next steps. I want to emphasize this year in particular, we've got municipal elections in North Carolina. Not every single municipality, for example, Raleigh had their city council elections last year, but most city councils, school boards, things like that are this year. And while the national political landscape kind of sucks up all the oxygen, it gets all the attention, it gets me very mad. It gets all of us talking. It's what gets the news coverage. I want to encourage you to think about what's going on in your own backyard because you, as a potential candidate, a potential elected leader, have a tremendous opportunity to make the changes you want to see in your own backyard. It is not as daunting as what's going on at the federal level, and you really can build the community that you want to see. What you can expect in this session in the next 52 minutes, this section is the first step of many. What this session is not, is it's not comprehensive. So you might have seen on my introduction slide, I have run for office myself. I've got my campaign sign behind me. I did not win, but it was a tremendous experience. Um, and I can tell you that I've also been a campaign manager. Running a campaign, running for office is a big project. So I'm not going to be able to share in 1 hour all of the information that you need to know, but I will give you some next steps to take as you consider this decision. If you want to type any questions you have in the chat, this is a good time. I'm going to give it just a moment. Thank you, Dr. McDaniel. Okay. So for those of you who are thinking about running, here are some key questions for you to consider. And I didn't invent these questions. These are fairly standard questions when you read or learn about potentially running for office. And I'm going to go into a little bit of depth on each of these. The key questions that you're going to want to be able to answer are why you, why now, why this race, and do you have support? When it comes to why you, this is a question that if you run, you will be asked a million times in a bunch of different ways. So you will get really good at this answer. It might be a little bumpy in the beginning, but you'll have plenty of practice if you run for office. What this is asking is, why are you the right person to run? Why should people vote for you over your opponents, over your competitors? Do you bring something to the office that is unique? Would you bring a perspective that has been lacking? Maybe you're part of an underrepresented group that needs a seat at the table, or perhaps you have a unique or compelling vision for your community. When it comes to why now, things to consider is this good timing for you personally? One thing I've heard from people recently, an example of this is for people who work in federal government, they're not allowed to run for office. The orange fella has fired a bunch of people who worked in federal government. And I've heard from a couple of people who say, I'd always thought about running before, but I wasn't allowed. Now the timing is good for me and I can run. That's an example of what that might look like. Is this good timing for you politically? So I'll talk about this a little bit more on the next slide, but Maybe you've been interested in running, but there's been a very strong incumbent in office. Maybe now they're retiring or they're not running again. And so the timing is good for you politically. Or maybe there's something happening right now that makes you want to take this action now. So think about why now. The answer might end up being maybe now's not quite the right time, maybe in 2 years or 4 years, but think about why now. Why this race? And I'll share a resource in a little bit in case you're thinking about running, but you don't know what race you want to run for. I will share a resource to help you get information on that. But a couple of things to think about is it an open seat? An open seat means that there is no incumbent running for reelection. When an incumbent runs for reelection, there are natural advantages they have that make it easier for them to win reelection than it is for someone to win election in the first place. And what I want to say here is I'm not here to tell anybody not to run, but I want to tell you what you would be facing. So if it's not an open seat, if there is an incumbent, but you think they're doing a bad job, running against an incumbent can be a more difficult race than running for an empty seat, an open seat, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Also, maybe your incumbent is a Democrat and they're not doing a good job. I'm not here to tell you you can't challenge a Democratic incumbent who has not been performing well for the community. It's just a matter of what are the race dynamics and how that might influence your strategy and tactics. The other question to ask when it comes to why this race is, do you have unique skills or experiences that are aligned with that office? For example, maybe you have a school-age child who has special needs or a developmental disability, and you're running for a school board seat, and you have personal experience what it's like supporting your child through the school system when they have a disability, and you want to bring that experience to bear as you run for this race and eventually govern. That might be an example of having unique skills or experiences that align with the office. Do you have support? Again, this doesn't mean if your answers are no, you don't run. It just means it might be harder. So, do your friends support you in this? Your family, your partner, your spouse or significant other, your employer. Some employers have requirements around you informing them if you're running for office. I mentioned if you work for the federal government, you can't run for office. Um, Employers might have this reporting requirement, particularly if they're a large corporation. Like I worked for a financial services company in the past. They had this kind of a requirement. And then do you have the support of your community? However you define community. Does community mean your physical neighborhood? Does it mean your faith-based community? Or maybe you're in an underrepresented group and that community supports you? When it comes to support from your family and your partner, I can tell you my experience when I ran for city council. I was very busy and I spent hours pretty much every evening campaigning. And that was time I didn't spend taking care of household chores and things. My husband was very supportive of me running. He picked up all that slack, never grumbled about a thing. And because I knew I had that support from him, it really freed me up to do a lot of campaigning. As I said before, if you don't have support of all those groups, it doesn't mean don't run. I just want you to think about it and go into it clear-headed and know that if you don't have that support, it will be potentially a lot more difficult for you. That doesn't mean it's not possible. Now, I saw some people in the chat are running this year, some are thinking about next year, some are thinking about it conceptually, and you don't know yet what you want to do. So, what I'm going to share here is that if you're running in 2025 in these municipal elections, we are currently in the filing period for those municipal elections. So, it opened July 7th. It ends the 18th at noon. I'm going to share some links here in a little bit that will include the link to the State Board of Elections where you can get more information. You would be going to your County Board of Elections to fill out your paperwork. I also mentioned in the beginning that we have a diverse state and different communities do different things. With municipal elections, we're not all going to vote on the exact same day. So I can't tell you when your election is. Most of the time, it's going to be November 4th, that first Tuesday in November. There are primaries in some cities here on September 9th, and there are some elections on October 7th. So that is one of the pieces of information. If you haven't confirmed what that is in your race, please do that. Also, if you are running this year, make sure you um, have a sense of if you have filing fees, signature requirements, what do you need to do to submit that paperwork? For those of you who are running in 2026, so this might be, I think we saw a judicial candidate in the chat. Maybe it's someone who is considering running for a state legislative seat. The filing period for those races, for state legislature, for statewide races, will be in December. So that's before the year ends. For next year, there will be a primary on March 3rd, and then election day is November 3rd. Now, let me drop some resources here in the chat. The first one, and I will include all of these links when I send the follow-up email tomorrow, but this is the website for the North Carolina State Board of Elections and some candidate resources. I took a screenshot of the website. You can see there's a 2025 municipal candidate guide that you can look at on the State Board of Elections website. That will help you firm up some of these details here about election date, filing fees, any of those things. I talked about the state of the race. So, the state of the race is how we're going to describe your race's dynamics. For example, is it an open seat or are you challenging an incumbent? You will have different strategies and tactics, a different, perhaps, level of difficulty in your race, depending on the answer to that. Also, in general, first-time candidates have a tougher time running for office than somebody who has already run for office once before. Part of this is just about name recognition and getting people to know you. Part of this is, excuse me, that it's a lot of work and there's a lot to learn. Also, when it comes to the state of the race, what are the demographics in the district that you're running for? For example, what is the party affiliation? Uh, excuse me, I'm getting all choked up. So party affiliation is going to be the split of Democrats versus Republicans versus unaffiliated voters. Are there gaps in voter registration? So can you see that the population has 10,000 people who are probably eligible to register to vote, but you only have 5,000 registered voters? You might want to consider adding a voter registration element to your campaign plan. What is the age, race, gender, religion split in your community? Those are just demographic pieces of information that are good to know. Also, you want to research the history of the seat and the recent elections. So, what is the average turnout? Meaning, what number or what percentage of eligible voters normally vote in that election? What are the average margins of victory? What the win margins? So, is it something where each of the past four elections, the Republican has beaten the Democrat by 10 plus points? That's a different race to run than if it's a district where, for the last four times, the Democrat has won by just 1 point. Those are different types of races, and you want to know what is the history and the trend for the race that you're considering. Who else is running? So, especially if you're considering running this year, I dropped the link for the State Board of Elections. They have started, since the filing period has opened, they've started publishing every day a list of everybody who has filed to run for office this year. So you can go check it out and see, maybe there's somebody running for a seat you're considering and you're like, oh gosh, that is actually someone I respect and think is awesome and the whole community loves. So maybe I'm going to back off. Or maybe you can see somebody's running for a school board seat and they're like a Moms for Liberty person, and you're like, oh my goodness, we cannot let them win. I definitely need to run. You can get that information here. Also, on that link I just provided, you can get information on who ran for that race in the past if you don't know it offhand. A couple of other research tools I use to get demographic information and information about the dynamics of the race. Of course, Wikipedia. You can get lots of information about your community, particularly demographic information. Google is your friend. Well, a little bit less of a friend than it was, say, 5 years ago. But you can, what I have here in this screenshot is I just Googled the name of my town and put like city government, and it brought up the website that lists all of the elected officials. Ballotpedia is a very good resource, particularly if you're thinking about running for a little bit higher office, like a state legislative race next year. It's the Wikipedia of elections, so Ballotpedia can be a good resource for that as well. And this might be the same link that Lillian just dropped, but you can get information on historical election results on the URL I just dropped in the chat so you can see what has happened in the past. They also, here's a good one, and all these links will be in the email. I'm just telling you what they are so you know when they come through. Yeah, Ballotpedia, I've had really good results with. I just dropped the link in the chat. This is a screenshot where you can look up campaign finance information. So it's a really good idea to look and see how much money was spent on the race you're considering 2 years ago, 4 years ago. This is another one of the things that can vary wildly across the state. There are elections this year in Charlotte for city council. The amount of money you need to raise and will spend for a successful campaign for city council in Charlotte is different than what they're going to spend in my town, Holly Springs, for the mayoral race. It can vary a lot. This resource will help you get a sense of how much has been raised and spent in the past. When you decide you're ready to run, and I've seen some people in the chat say they already submitted their paperwork, they're in it. Couple of the very first tasks you want to do is you need to set up a campaign committee. This is like your legal entity. It's like the business of running your campaign. And you want a campaign bank account. You don't want to fundraise and spend money from your personal bank account. That's a no-no. You will have a special bank account for your campaign. Consider if you need to inform your employer. And you will want a treasurer. This is the person who's going to help you file your campaign finance paperwork, which is required no matter how small your race is. I dropped the link for the State Board of Elections campaign finance manual. Your treasurer will need to attend a mandatory training that the State Board of Elections runs. Finding a treasurer can be a little bit challenging. One resource to help you with that is to ask your county party. If you are not yet connected and building a relationship with the Democratic Party in your county, this is a good thing to start, and this is one of the tasks you can ask them about. At a very high level, you're going to raise money and spend money. I can't tell you how much you're going to need to raise. That's why I want you to look at the history of how much has been spent in the past. It's another thing you can ask your county Democratic Party about. Can you contribute any money to that? Or will you need to raise it all from other people? Who will you ask to donate? Who's in your personal network? Who's in your Rolodex? Um, that's an old-timey term, but one rule of thumb I've heard is that the people in your life who would celebrate your birthday with you, however much money they would spend to help you celebrate your birthday, ask them to donate that much to your campaign. So, is it a buddy who's gonna take you out and buy you a couple of beers? Ask them for 10, 15 bucks. Is it your rich aunt who's gonna take you out for a $200 dinner? Ask her for $200. Just kind of a rule of thumb. And you'll need to track your donations as they come in. If you're running in a smallish school board, city council, town council type race, you might be looking at raising and spending $1,000, $2,000. You can probably track that in like a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet. For those of you, my municipal candidate, those of you who said you might be running for the state legislature next year, you are probably going to be raising and spending a lot more money than that. And so you might need a more robust tool. When it comes to spending money, where does the money go? So, one of the most important things you need to run a good race is the voter roll. This is the list of everybody who's eligible to vote so that you can talk to them. If you are running for office as a Democrat, the state Democratic Party will give you that resource for free. In my race, I had to buy it and it was like $900. So we will give all Democrats running for office this year free access to Vote Builder. Vote Builder is the name of the database, has all the information on who's registered to vote, addresses, emails, phone numbers, the whole works. Um, you might be spending money on a website, social media, email. Again, this kind of depends on the size of your race. Might also depend on how clever your friends are. If you've got a friend that's a hobbyist graphic designer or a professional graphic designer, maybe instead of donating $100 to your election, they'll design a logo for you, things like that. Um, but you'll need to pay probably for website hosting, $10 or something a month. You might do some paid social media advertising where you boost your posts. And when it comes to email, you might use an email distribution platform, particularly if you're in one of those larger races or next year for the state assembly. Then you will print some literature probably about who you are, what you stand for, why people should vote for you. So you have something when you go knock doors, you can hand it out to people. We will hook you up with the tools so that you can use Minivan to go canvass and knock doors and talk to voters. That would be for free. But maybe you'll have a texting campaign and you want to text voters as well, and that costs like 2 to 4 cents per text you send generally. Direct mail. For a lot of campaigns, this might be the single biggest expense. So direct mail would be you have a, a flyer or a postcard designed, printed, and mailed to the voters in your district. That can get pricey for the design, the paper, the postage. That is a big expense for a lot of campaigns. Again, it depends a little bit on your race dynamics and the size of your community. Paid advertising beyond paid social media is probably not something you're going to be doing this year, but for those of you who are considering a run for the General Assembly next year, that might be something that is in your plan as well. And then, will you need to pay any staff? So, there are probably people who know and adore you and trust you, who are willing to give you their help for free. You might need to pay a treasurer. Usually, I've seen it X number of dollars for each campaign finance report they submit for you. Um, Hopefully, you can probably get somebody to help manage your campaign without charge, or if it's a larger race, maybe you hire somebody for a part-time type job. So those are some of the places where your money may go. I'm going to pause before I share resources because I see a bunch of stuff happening in the chat. And Lillian, do you want to introduce yourself? I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to introduce you earlier.
No, no worries. That was on me. I was trying to get Motrin down a baby's throat with a 101-degree fever, but we're here and she's nursing, so I'm off camera. But I'm the deputy executive director who wears many hats, and I appreciate y'all for stepping up to run for office or thinking about running for office. I think it is one of the most putting your heart and soul on the line for the cause positions out there. So I really appreciate you.
Thanks for being here, Lillian. I see some questions in the chat that have mostly been answered, but Daquan asked if we provide website creation training. So I don't have a training on website creation. I'm interested to know what kind of race you're considering or running for. If it's like next year and it's a state legislative or for our judicial candidate, you might be able to get some help from that, help for that from the state party. Um, but there are like 1,700 municipal races this year, so we don't have capacity to make 1,700 websites unless Lillian's raised her hand to disagree with me.
Not at all. What we do have is a template, a Wix template that we are happy to share with anybody. So if you want to take a kind of already preset candidate template style thing and just plug and play what the party has, we are happy to do that. And you can email digital@ncdp.org and they'll get you set up.
Thank you. I learned something new. Um, and Dr. McDaniel's asking, hear more about Vote Builder. So I'm going to share some more training resources here in just a couple of minutes. So if I don't get you the information you need, remind me. But let me start sharing some resources for those of you considering this. And I've already shared a lot of information. It can be daunting. And what I want to tell you is just jump in and start wherever you are. I have to provide a lot of information because I've got people here from all over the state, and I don't know if your race is huge or if your race is modest. But I don't want that to be a deterrent. I say don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So jump in where you are. I can tell you, I did not know everything I needed to know when I started running for office, and I learned it along the way. If you're considering running and you're like, oh, I'm not prepared to make this decision in the next 7 days, but I'm interested in this down the road, I just dropped a link in the chat. Um, I worked for Run for Something for a while. Run for Something is an organization that in particular helps people under 40 get elected to local and statewide state municipal office. People under 40 are underrepresented as a group in elected office. So this is what Run for Something focuses on. The link I dropped, if you put in your address, this is a screenshot of the form, it will tell you every elected office that shows up on your ballot, from president, which you're probably not running for, to soil and water commission, county commissioner, school board, things like that, that might be a better starting point for you. This will put you on their email distribution list. If you don't want that, you can just hit unsubscribe and they'll take you back off. But I do like that resource quite a bit. So I am leading a candidate training series here in North Carolina, and this is the list of what's coming up with that. I will also include it in the follow-up email. Um, First, we're having a kickoff rally for municipal candidates. That is where NCDP staff, candidates, county party leaders, our state party leaders like our chair, Anderson Clayton, and our other elected officers will be there at that rally. And then getting into the weeds of running a campaign, I have this schedule set up once a week so we can help candidates think about your strategy, fundraising, communication, field organizing, digital and social media, and then GOTV, get out the vote, which is the last phase in a campaign right before people are voting and while they're voting. So I will record all these sessions. I know that they're all at 6 p.m. and they're all Mondays. If you're running for office, you have a lot of things to do and you have a lot of evenings booked. I'm going to record all these sessions. I will put them up on the YouTube playlist that we have. You can watch me at 2x speed. You've got a lot on your plate, but hopefully you'll find some information in those sessions that is helpful. If you think, my goodness, I can't take any more Christy talking at me, I have other options for you. So Lead NC is North Carolina-based organization that is it's nonpartisan, but their values are democratically aligned with us. They have a couple options coming up here. So towards the end of this month in Greensboro, they're doing a 2-day thing, Get Elected. So if you've decided to run for office, that 2-day training will probably cover a lot of what I'm going to cover in each of those hour sessions. And then mid-September, they have a 1-day training in Raleigh, Get Ready to Lead. Another option for you, and this is one that I used a lot of, the National Democratic Training Committee. What I like about their resource. They have a lot of templates. They do some live trainings over Zoom. They also have a lot of resources so you can do self-guided learning. When I was running for office, I used a lot of their trainings and templates, and I would just, when I had a chance, when the need presented itself, I would go to their website and pull resources. What you have to do to get access is fill out like an application form. It's not that heavy. And you click a box that says, yes, I am a Democrat, and you can get access to their resources. Also, um, just before this session started, um, NDTC is going to partner with the North Carolina Democratic Party to add some additional trainings to the schedule that I have going. So I'm really excited about that. For those of you who are dreaming bigger, who are perhaps running for state legislature next year, maybe our judicial candidate who was in the mix, the Institute of Political Leadership, they have a very robust like fellowship program. You have to apply. They have 10 to 20 people. It's like a year-long, very in-depth program. So if you're thinking about higher office or something, that might be an option for you. Emily's List focuses on electing Democratic pro-choice women. Um, Run for Something also endorses candidates. Emily's List endorses candidates. They also, all of these resources have pretty similar training programs. So you can just kind of pick the one that feels good to you. And then the last one I want to mention is Lillian's List, which is North Carolina based for progressive pro-choice women. One thing about Lillian's List that I like that's a little different than the other organizations is they also do some training on how to get appointed to boards and commissions, which can be a first step before you get elected to office. So I wanted to share that information on Lillian's List as well. I think the screenshots I have here might be over. They had the Women of Color leadership training, I think was in June. But you can check their website for what's coming up. And then the last resource, second to last resource I'm going to share, and then we can do some Q&A, let us know if you're running for office. So we are looking at that report from the State Board of Elections to see who has filed their paperwork. And we are reaching out to people who are Democrats who have pulled papers or who have registered to run for office, and sharing some of the resources and support that we can offer. If you're thinking about running and haven't decided yet, or if you're thinking about running next year, you can fill out this form and we will reach out and share information with you. I'm going to stop my screen share or stop my recording.